You're going to feel shame and guilt and think low of yourself. And then it's just going to cause the cycle to keep going. So giving yourself grace and realizing that it's going to take time. It's not going to be a quick fix. There are no quick fixes. Find someone who you feel comfortable talking to, getting it out in the open that way. I'm just a much more disciplined person now than I was. My self-awareness has exponentially gotten better over my time in the program, no doubt.
What is going on? Chris here with yet another testimonial from somebody that honestly I'm really excited to have you guys get to know. We're going to hear about his journey and his story in our exclusive implementation program. He is a father, he is a coach, and a passionate individual, and has got a lot of insight and things to share. And I'm really fortunate. I feel fortunate to be able to spend some time with him. Without further ado, we're here with Mr. Austin. How you doing, Austin, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for the introduction. Quite the intro there.
Hey, man, absolutely. No, I love the way you share, and I love the way, you speak. You're really, really articulate, and I'm really curious to kind of like hear, how perhaps the program has sort of supported you in just your livelihood, your own self-awareness, and just your overall decision making. But let's start from the very, very beginning. First of all, how did you discover the program to begin with?
Yeah, I think I saw JK's stuff on Facebook. I was part of the free Facebook group. And actually before then, I found him on YouTube. I opted in for one of the free lead magnets or something, which was very helpful. I was a long time kind of lurker in the group. So I would consume information and then I'd be, okay, well, maybe one day. And so I think it was like probably over a year of me just like being in the group before I actually joined the program. But yeah, so that's how I ended up in the implementation program. As far as how it's been for me in my decision making, like you said, I am also a coach. I'm a trainer, and I have my own coaching business too, where I work with men, more fitness and mindset stuff. But some overlap as far as the compulsive behavior issues. And I say it's really helped me. I can get into like more of the detailed stuff that I found really useful and helped a lot. But just like overview, if we zoom out a little bit, it changed how I show up for my business, meaning I'm just a much more disciplined person now than I was. So like, yeah, the compulsive behavior and my self-awareness has exponentially gotten better over my time in the program, no doubt. And that's bled into how I'm showing up at work, how I'm showing up for my own clients. And a big reason I signed up was like, yes, the behavior, but I felt like this huge misalignment, how I was presenting myself for the guys I was working with and my own clients. And like you said, I'm a father and husband as well, and a Christian too. So like, there was just so much misalignment with what I was presenting on the outside versus the secret behavior behind closed doors, what I was super ashamed about. And just, yeah. So the fact that I'm able to now align that better, the self-awareness aspect has helped me understand, a lot of kind of why that happens. Like we can go into the coaching calls too, but yeah, I'd say the system overall has really just upticked in how I'm showing up for my clients.
That's so good. And
Yeah.
that I can relate to in terms of that kind of walking around with this sort of internal sense of like fraudulence. It's like if only they knew, what kind of like goes on behind closed doors. And, being like a worship leader myself, like, I mean, I can definitely resonate. It's like, here I am, on Sunday, kind of like, portraying or, doing my best to, share a particular message. And, behind closed doors, I could be doing, a much better job in following through and practicing what I preach in a way. So I can definitely feel you there. And I know for a fact that so many brothers in struggle can and do. And I'm curious, as far as like, what was the moment like where you were talking about like your time in the free group and maybe one day, what was the moment like when that maybe one day turned into today?
Um, there's like two parts to this. So I guess the first part would be, it was actually nothing that happened in the free group per se. There was an email that JK sent out because I was on his email list, and it like hit home. I don't remember exactly what it was about, but it was like kind of talking about the misalignment a little bit. I think it was like, brother, if you like, you feel like the face you're portraying on the outside is misaligned, respond to this email. We're opening like a new session. There was like a call to action email. But the thing he talked about was the misalignment part. And I was like, oh shoot, that's like exactly how I'm feeling right now. so that's that, like what happened on that side. On the other side, I believe in my own personal life, I was like, I kind of hit a low. Like, so I've been trying to, I'll just back up a little. I had a reversion to my faith about 5 years ago now. And so I'd been struggling with pornography and this behavior since I was like 11, probably when I first got exposed to that. So it's, and I'm like 30 right now. So it's been 20 years, I guess, of just this behavior festering. And it wasn't until like 2020, so like 5 years ago, when I was like, okay, I need to stop this behavior. It's bad. I don't want to indulge it. I'm going to try and start to like, and yeah, for the last 5 years, I've been like trying, 4 years or whatever, and we're making like no progress. And so in my life at that point, I was married by then, and I kind of hit a low. Just that behavior had really escalated into like my wife finding out about it, without going into details, but like I got caught. And I was like, man, like this is gonna ruin like my life. Like I'm I have this wonderful wife. At that point we had, I think, just one kid. We're expecting number 4 in September. But our first, thank you. Our daughter was like a baby at that point. And yeah, it was just like a big slap in the face. So it was a combination of those things. My personal life situation plus his email about the misalignment pushed me over the edge to finally join.
Absolutely. No, I thank you for sharing that. And here you are, man, So walk me through it, man, as far as, like you had mentioned, like some of those things that you've, learned and picked up on along the way that have contributed not just to, your relationship with a past compulsive behavior, but your relationship with just, your clients, your relationship with yourself and, your perspective staying sharp, on the things that are important as opposed to the things that are urgent. It's like urgent is like, oh, this needs to get done like right now. I mean, when we're talking about urges, like that's the root of that word, urgent, right? It's like the need to get done right now, but important kind of thinks with the end in mind, right? So with that, kind of breaking that question down, like what have been some of the tools that you've learned during your time in the program so far?
With regards to like the urgency you just broke down, or just generally like tool, what do you mean?
Let's
Sorry.
talk general, and then we'll get more specific. Like
Okay.
yeah, some of the tools you picked up along the way.
Yeah, I mean, so the modules and stuff are really good. It's like there's a lot of information, honestly. I'm rewatching it right now. But I'd say the biggest like things that, so going through the program, I'll say this, and my accountability partner helped me kind of understand this too. He's been in a little longer than me. Um, is JK and the program introduce you to like so many tools, and it's awesome, but you don't necessarily need to use every single tool. Like every brother's going to have different things that work for them. We're all different personalities. Our behavior is a little different, right? So the ones that personally had the biggest impact that I've like implemented and still use, the biggest, like the most important ones were probably the morning routine and feelings exercise, kind of bearing that. I've really tweaked. I've like, man, the morning routine is so powerful for me of just starting your day like that. So that's been the one key. And then I've also really gotten into like journaling a lot since, so with that goes the rational, irrational exercise. And yeah, I guess that one. And then kind of just, so right now, I don't know if this was necessarily in the program, but I journal a lot about um, my ideal self, kind of like and the book talks about this, that they recommend too, breaking the cycle, you know, like the separating yourself from your addict self, kind of the amphitheater exercise is what I'm referring to here, and talking to your sub personalities. That I'd never heard of any of this stuff. Like, this is totally new. I didn't really, I haven't like jumped from like program to program with regards to this behavior. So this was all new. I was a noob, and those were the biggest ones I'd say that I've implemented. Now, along the way, I've picked up other skills. So those are like the mindset ones that have helped me really, like I was talking about earlier with my business. They've taken that to the next level by just showing up with these routines that I'm consistent with, and by being consistent, I'll say that's given me more self-confidence because I'm like following through on what I say I'm going to do, which is like the definition of self-confidence. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I trust myself to do it. And so the morning routine is like an easy win that if you can just stick to that, that's a win you're going to start to stack up.
Yep.
But the other thing too that has really been huge that me and my AP have worked on a lot are boundaries and systems, like the physical aspect of our lives. So, rules for myself and gathering data on when I have the strongest urges, looking historically when I have slips or relapses, right? And building like always learning from that is something I've learned from this program is like I'm not just gonna go into this pit of despair and like sit there for. I'm like, okay, let's analyze what happened. How could I have well in the future when this situation comes up again? What do I need to have in place so that doesn't happen or that outcome is different? So some examples are I have strict rules with like social media now for myself. I uninstalled some apps that were continually triggering me early on that I was like, oh, why is this happening? It's like the same thing is causing it. Um, and then yeah, also like physical boundaries with like that I've talked to my AP. I was like, I'm not this is for me personally gonna use my phone when I'm in my like in the bathroom or in a living room by myself. Like I want to be with my wife. Like there's these physical boundaries that just help me mentally stick with that. Yeah, that was like a long-winded answer of like those are a lot of the systems that have helped me a lot as far as stuff.
No, I love that. And you know, I can certainly relate to that dialoguing with the addict subpersonality, you know, identifying the voices in your amphitheater. Shout out to George Collins, the author of A Brick in the Cycle. As someone, this was sort of like my first big attempt at, you know, getting a healthier sense of control over myself and, you know, in terms of compulsive behavior. I had never heard of anything like that before. It was sort of a game changer, you know?
Yeah,
So,
same.
yeah. And I'm curious, man. I mean, you were mentioning your accountability partner. I mean, talk to me a little bit about that. Like, and the fact that you guys are still keeping in touch is really, really encouraging to hear. Talk to me a little bit about your overall experience with, you know, linking up with an AP from the program.
Yeah, that's honestly maybe been one of the biggest things for me. I mean, I say that about everything. Everything is great. The AP has been really good. I don't know. I got lucky. I think we just paired up and we really have gelled. He joined around the same time as me. We met in the Facebook group and when you're inside the community, and we've had a really consistent schedule. So we schedule calls once a week where we talk on the phone, but we literally text. I think every single day. So we always have action steps. We call each other out on our nonsense. We get each other's reports. A lot of the stuff that I've adapted for my environment, like I said, or the rules I have for myself, he's helped me work out and vice versa on issues he struggles with. It was really cool actually. Like was it last week? He actually came down to Texas and we met in person. We had a meetup.
I love that.
Yeah. It was so fun. We went and like met at Russian, had some beers. It was great. I got post that picture in the group.
Yeah, no, definitely do. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so we've just had a really good relationship. I don't know, like I think it all like having an AP I think is super important because this behavior thrives in isolation and like in darkness, right? So even just like at the back of my mind, I know he sees my reports and I'm like when I start to get urges and I might start to like break some boundaries that I know I don't need to, I'm like, he's gonna call me out. Okay. Like that's just a small thing, but there's things like that. And then he will call me out, and that's great. And that's why he's so helpful and useful. And then you also just get the perspective of another guy in the program who sees things that maybe you don't see. We are terrible at self reflecting oftentimes in the moment, with the behavior. So I think it's good to have an outside perspective.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, man, like having that relationship with him has been really helpful and really fruitful, I'd say. Like that in and of itself has made the investment worth it. If like nothing else, it was just the AP. And granted, there's a lot more, but like I'm saying, that's how big it's been for our journey, for my journey.
Yeah, no, dude, I feel that. I mean, the first set of APs that I had, this is dating back, oh my goodness, like 2020. And I'm still in touch with them. So it absolutely is possible to be like, you know, keeping in touch with, you know, like it's funny, like, you know, we use the word brother like about 50 jillion times a day. And it's not a word that we just kind of throw around lately. You know, it's one thing to like have someone else who might be struggling with a compulsive behavior, but a brother is someone that you hold close. Like a brother is someone that gets it. It's just a different breed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think of it like, I don't know, you think of like guys in like doing some hard physical challenge or like war or something, like lifting each other up. They're both like the hand, they're pulling each other up this mountain or something. Like that's what I feel like that's what it is. We're all like trying to get out of this behavior. We're all struggling. We all have that in common. We can all relate to similar issues and we're just lifting each other up, man. And it's so powerful.
I love that, man. And speaking of, you know, lifting each other up, I mean, as far as your experience with the coaching calls is involved, you know, with the coaches that are there, different coaches for different needs, right? I'm curious to hear about your experience with the calls.
Yeah, so I've attended all of them, some just with my schedule. Like I haven't attended Dr. Rankin's call, for example, very often. I've only been on twice so far, but I will say they're all very good. I think, like you said, they're all like different depending on what you kind of, I feel like, one, the style of the coach, like is just like straight up, and the information, they all have like specialties, which is really cool. Like I like how depending on what maybe you want more help with, you can go to that call versus this call. For me personally, a Coach Milan's calls were the highlight, I think. That one, I don't know. I feel like I've heard a lot of people say that that's just a favorite. But his calls, the mindset, he's the, like neuro reprogramming and stuff. And his techniques are very, for lack of a better word, just new to me. Like I've never really heard of, NLP stuff. I think it's kind of what he is trained in. So that was good. Like breaking limiting beliefs. He has the circle of excellence exercise, which I've taken notes on before and I've implemented it. It's actually crazy how that's like immediately you feel that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
If you don't know what it is, you call you. But yeah, so Coach Milan's calls were awesome. I would say I think the foundation of the program is not in the calls. That's like a cherry on, like if it's like a pyramid, right? Those are like supplementation to really help bring everything together. Right. So there's no missing piece there. So it's been helpful. I think Dr. Eastman's calls have also been good. Those are probably the two most I went to, was hers and Milan's. And even just like the coaching aspect aside, it's cool to go on the calls and like see other guys and hear other guys talk, right? Because it's not just the coach giving a lecture. It's usually like answering questions, people speaking and clarifying. And I don't know, there's something about just like, wow, I relate to what he's saying right now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not the only person that has ever asked or thought this or felt like this. And like I said earlier, this behavior thrives in isolation. And so, you're in the Facebook group, but a lot of times like it's just posts, which is good. And that's not bad. But seeing other people talk and hearing them talk and seeing the faces and hearing them talk about their story, you're like, man, like a lot of guys struggle with this. I'm not a weirdo. I'm not a freak or anything. Like it's common. So that in and of itself, I think has been a big positive part of that.
I'm glad. No, I'm really, really glad to hear that. That's really cool. And and sort of in a way, as far as, that commonness, of various issues that go along with having an out of control, compulsive behavior, or at least a history of it. I wanna throw this at you. I think you can handle it. Basically, kind of tying together everything we've talked about. If you were to, for example, come into contact with somebody who is struggling with an out of control behavior, they confide in you and they trust you enough to share with what you've learned and what you've experienced so far. I mean, is there anything that you would want to share with that person who might be kind of that mode of struggling in silence, and the way that you and I know about that might not be as comfortable with like diving into community, sort of like wanting to kind of like stay sort of safer in the shadows, which is an oxymoron but to someone who does not know that, right? Anything you would want to lend as far as insight goes?
Yeah, for sure. I think I would say, assuming they're not asking me to be their AP or something, like let's just say that's not the scenario. Yeah. I would say the first thing, even if you don't feel comfortable like joining a community, step one is you got to have some form of accountability. This thrives in the shadows, like you just said. And so whether that's a close friend you trust, your brother, or someone at church, wherever you are, like find someone who you feel comfortable talking to, and like getting it on the open that way, at least with one other person, I'd say is huge. Because I think like we want to fight this in isolation. Like that's just our tendency. We're embarrassed about it, right? It's like there's socially, there's more stigma to it too, right? If you came out with like a drinking problem or drug, everyone's like, oh, like compassionate for you. But if you say this, like there's this social stigma of like, oh, that's weird. What? Like that's not a thing, right? So getting it out in the open, I'd say, is the most important thing. And then second would be, I'd say two things. The first thing I'd say for me that I've struggled with a lot is give yourself grace. Self-hate, negative self-talk, but I'm the worst. Like, that's just going to perpetuate the cycle. You're going to feel shame and guilt and think low of yourself, and then it's just going to cause the cycle to keep going. So giving yourself grace and realizing that it's going to take time. It's not going to be a quick fix. There are no quick fixes. And this relates to like, don't compare yourself. If you hear other people that are like, oh, I overcame that. I decided to stop one day and I stopped. So give yourself grace. And the second one is, it's going to take however long you think it's going to take probably like 3 times as long. And that's okay. Because I think the self-development, the self-growth that you experience is like in the journey. It's not in the destination. I will say this, like, I think if I could have snapped my fingers and just been done with this behavior, I wouldn't be the person I am like right now. Meaning I wouldn't have the routines. I wouldn't have the self-awareness. I wouldn't have learned these tools. I wouldn't be showing up in my business differently or as a father or husband differently if I just like snapped my fingers and stopped. I'd still be that same person, just like probably with a different vice then, if, in this scenario, magic scenario.
Yeah.
But that process, the grinding and learning these skills and acquiring the tools is how we grow. So I'd say embrace the process. It's going to take time. Find accountability.
No, it's so good. I think there's a lot to pull from that, a lot of diamonds in there, not the least of which is, the cliche sort of applies wherever you go, there you are, so to your point of like, snapping your fingers a couple of years ahead, and it's like, all right, I'm done with this behavior now. But having not learned the art form of self-discipline, the art form of, like decision-making that actually aligns with your principles and values, like, I totally agree. I probably would have found like another thing to kind of latch onto behaviorally so that it didn't have to necessarily cope with what was going on internally, So really, really a lot of insight to find there. I really, really appreciate you sharing that, man.
At the end of the day, right, it's not really about the sex or the girls. It's like we're all coping with something. It's like we're suppressing some feeling, some negative feeling where we're trying to mask or run from or hide from. I think just understanding that, and then, like I said, learning those tools and skills to be able to move forward. So that was a good, yeah.
Oh, so good. So sort of a follow-up question to that. Would you then in turn perhaps recommend this program?
100%. I absolutely would. It's like I said, it's changed my life in multiple areas, not just the behavior, not just my self-improvement, but I could say honestly in like all buckets, right? Like my self-discipline, my family life, my business. Yeah, this was like, I think the investment was way over delivered for what I expected.
Sick. I love that, man. I'm sincerely really, really happy to hear that. And it's been sincerely like a joy to like see you. I would say really within maybe really the first half of this year, here we are in 2025, like you really kind of like taken the ball and just ran with it. Like I've seen you sort of like thrive in like your own business and your faith and your family life. It like, just like I see you, man. Like it's been really, really cool to see. It's been really
Well, thank you. Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. Well, thank you for your time. Appreciate your insight and all the continued best to you, man.